When you change your mind, you change your destiny. These words may sound simple, but they carry a weight that can move mountains. We live inside invisible prisons, built not of steel or concrete, but of thought, memory, and belief. Joe Dispenza reminds us that the walls that confine us are nothing more than the repeated patterns of yesterday. The mind, like a river, carves channels through our brain, flowing in the same directions again and again. And as long as we think the same thoughts, we feel the same emotions. And as long as we feel the same emotions, we live the same life, day after day, year after year. But what happens when you dare to think differently? What happens when you break the habit of being yourself, when you step into the unknown, into a future that has not yet been written? Dispenza calls this the beginning of true freedom. It is the act of refusing to be a prisoner of your past and instead becoming the author of your destiny. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is not a poetic metaphor, it is a law of the psyche. Most of us live under the illusion that life is happening to us, when in reality, life is happening through us. Our unconscious patterns, our unexamined thoughts, our conditioned emotions, they pull the strings while we play the role of marionettes. But when you awaken, when you shine the light of awareness on these patterns, you reclaim the pen that writes your story. Imagine this. A person wakes up every morning with a heavy heart. The first thought is of regret, the second of worry, the third of pain. These thoughts are not random, they are rehearsed. Like a song stuck on repeat, the brain plays yesterday's emotions today, and the body follows, producing the same chemicals, the same sensations, the same destiny. And yet, in a single moment of awareness, this person could interrupt the pattern. By choosing a different thought, by imagining a different future, by feeling gratitude for what is not yet visible, they begin to send new instructions to their brain, to their cells, to their life. Joe Dispenza says, "The moment you change your energy, you change your life." Energy is not an abstract concept here. It is the frequency of thought and emotion that radiates through every cell of your being. When you choose fear, you radiate fear. When you choose love, you radiate love. The world, like a mirror, reflects back to you the energy you project. Nietzsche once declared, "Become who you are." To change your mind is precisely to step into the becoming. For who you are is not fixed, not a statue carved in stone, but a dance of possibilities. The mind is the sculptor, the destiny the sculpture. And if you dare to pick up the tools of awareness, intention, and discipline, you can reshape what once seemed inevitable. Think of the stories of people who defied their own history. A man born into poverty who visualized abundance until opportunity found him. A woman diagnosed with illness who meditated daily on health until her body began to respond. These are not miracles in the supernatural sense. They are miracles of consciousness, demonstrations of how a changed mind generates a changed reality. But let us not be naive. To change your mind is not easy. It is to wage war against the familiar, to confront the comfort of suffering, to abandon the identity you have carried for years. The mind clings to what it knows, even if it is pain. Freud once observed, "Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility." To change your mind is to accept responsibility for your life, to admit that you are not merely a victim of fate, but a participant in creation. And yet, in that responsibility lies your liberation. For if your thoughts have created chains, they can also create wings. If your emotions have kept you trapped, they can also set you free. Every destiny is reversible, every script rewritable. If you dare to begin with the only place you truly control, your mind. So let me ask you, What thoughts are you rehearsing today? Are they thoughts of fear, resentment, limitation? Or are they thoughts of gratitude, possibility, and love? The answer is not trivial, for in your answer lies the seed of your tomorrow. To change your mind is to step into a laboratory where you are both the scientist and the experiment. Joe Dispenza often reminds us that the brain is plastic. It rewires itself with every new thought, every new emotion, every new experience. Imagine that every thought you repeat is like walking down a path in the forest. The more you walk it, the clearer the trail becomes. But if you stop, if you choose a new direction, the old path begins to fade and a new one begins to form. Your mind is no different. Each time you choose gratitude over complaint, courage over fear, vision over despair, you carve a new path, and that path becomes your destiny. But here is the paradox. The mind resists. It clings to the old path, the one it knows so well. This is why change feels uncomfortable, even painful. The familiar suffering feels safer than the unknown freedom. Have you ever noticed how the body reacts when you decide to change? The moment you imagine a new future, the old self fights back. Doubt creeps in. What if I fail? What if nothing changes? Who am I without my pain? These are not mere questions. They are the defense mechanisms of an identity struggling to survive. Jung would call this the confrontation with the shadow. For in the shadows live all the parts of us that are terrified of transformation. The part that says you are unworthy of love. The part that whispers you will always be poor. The part that clings to the familiar misery because it is at least predictable. When you try to change your mind, you do not just change your thoughts, you awaken the entire underworld of your psyche. And yet, it is only by walking through this underworld that you emerge into the light. Think of the hero's journey. Every myth, every story of transformation speaks of this descent. Orpheus into Hades, Dante into the Inferno, you into your own unconscious. To change your mind is to walk into your own depths, to face the dragons of fear, doubt, and shame. And like every hero, you must confront them not by fighting them, but by transforming them. Fear becomes courage, doubt becomes faith, shame becomes dignity, and the alchemy of the soul begins. Joe Dispenza tells stories of people who healed themselves not by medicine alone, but by belief. A man with a broken spine who visualized himself walking until neurons began to fire in harmony with the vision. A woman with stage 4 cancer who meditated daily on health until her body responded. Science might call this placebo, but Dispenza calls it proof that the mind is the body's greatest pharmacy. When you change your mind, you literally change the chemical instructions that your body follows. Consider this. The body does not know the difference between a real experience and an imagined one. When you imagine joy vividly, your brain produces the same chemicals as if joy were already present. When you visualize success with emotion, your body rehearses success as if it had already happened. And so, your future begins to exist in the present moment, encoded into your biology, waiting only to unfold. But how many of us spend our imagination on fear? How many of us rehearse failure instead of victory? How many of us visualize betrayal, sickness, or scarcity, and then wonder why our life feels heavy? The mind is a projector, and the body the screen. If you do not like the movie you are watching, do not curse the screen, change the reel. Nietzsche wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." To change your mind is not only to choose new thoughts, but to anchor them in a why so deep, so powerful, that it fuels your persistence. Without a why, the old self will seduce you back into comfort. With a why, you will endure the discomfort of becoming. Ask yourself, why do you want to change? Is it for love, for freedom, for peace, for creation? Hold that why like a flame in the darkness, because the darkness will come, the old self will resist, the world may doubt you, but if your flame is strong, it will not go out. Rilke once wrote, "The future enters into us in order to transform itself in us long before it happens. This is the essence of changing your mind. You invite the future into the present by feeling it, by imagining it, by becoming it before it arrives. You do not wait for destiny, you generate it. Think of water freezing into ice. At one moment it is fluid, invisible, undefined. At the next, it crystallizes into form. The mind works the same. Your thoughts and emotions are fluid, but repeated enough. They crystallize into matter, into life, into destiny. This is why Dispenza insists, your personality creates your personal reality. Change the personality, change the reality. And yet how tempting it is to give up, to say, this is just who I am, I can't change, it's too late. But let me ask you, who told you that? Was it your parents repeating their own fears? Was it a teacher, a society, an inner critic? Or was it simply a habit of thought so old you mistook it for truth? The self is not a prison, it is a choice. Every day you write yourself anew, and every day you can write a different story. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself a year from now. Who are you? What are you feeling? What do you see? If your vision feels impossible, that is not a sign to give up. That is a sign you are on the right track. Because transformation always feels impossible until the impossible becomes inevitable. And so, to change your mind is to declare, I will not live yesterday again. I will not rehearse the same story. I will not let the past dictate my future. I choose, I create, I become. There comes a moment in every journey of transformation when the old self and the new self face each other. It feels like standing at a crossroads, one road leading back to the familiar, the other into the unknown. The familiar whispers promises of safety, but it is a safety wrapped in chains. The unknown whispers nothing. It is silent, vast, terrifying. But it is in that silence that destiny is waiting. Joe Dispenza teaches that the unknown is not your enemy, it is your ally. The unknown is the womb of creation, the space where infinite possibilities reside. When you step into the unknown with faith, with vision, with emotion aligned to your future, you awaken forces that respond to you. It is as if life itself bends toward your intention. But if you shrink back into the known, you recycle the past. You live in circles, not lines. Jung would say that individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, requires this leap. You cannot individuate while clinging to the masks, the roles, the old stories. You must risk yourself. You must be willing to die to who you were in order to be born into who you could become. Think of the caterpillar dissolving into liquid inside the cocoon. It is no longer what it was, but not yet what it will be. That is what changing your mind feels like. The old dissolves, the new has not yet formed, and you are left in a sacred in-between. Most people panic in that space. They rush back to the old identity just to escape the uncertainty. But if you can endure the in-between, if you can breathe in the void, you emerge with wings. Dispenza often asks, can you believe in a future that you cannot yet see, but you have already felt? That is the challenge. Not to wait for evidence, but to be the evidence. To walk as if it were already true, to love before you are loved, to feel health before it manifests, to embody abundance before it arrives. This is not pretending, it is rehearsing destiny, and science supports it. Neuroplasticity shows us that neurons fire and wire together based on repeated thought. Epigenetics shows us that genes are not destiny. They are instructions turned on or off by environment and belief. Heart coherence studies show that emotion reorganizes physiology. The mystics intuited it, and now science confirms it. Your mind is not a passenger in life. it is the driver. But here is the question: will you take the wheel, or will you let the past steer for you? Because the past is seductive. It will tell you that your pain is who you are, that your failures define you, that your fears are wisdom. But these are lies. The past is not a prophecy, it is a memory, and you are not condemned to repeat it unless you choose to. Let me offer you an image. Imagine your life as a canvas. For years you have painted the same shapes, the same colors, the same patterns. People look at it and say, "This is you." But one day, you realize you hold the brush. And you could paint anything: light, mountains, oceans, stars. The canvas is not fixed. The only prison is the belief that the old painting cannot be changed. But it can. Every stroke, every color, every vision begins in your mind. And so I ask you, what do you want to paint now? What future calls to you from beyond the horizon? Will you answer? Rilke wrote, "The only journey is the one within." That journey begins with a single thought, not a grand revolution, but a choice. One thought of gratitude, one thought of courage, one thought of love. That thought becomes a day. That day becomes a life. That life becomes a destiny. So here now in this moment you are standing at the crossroads. The old self behind you, the new self ahead. And the question is not, can you change? The question is, will you? Close your eyes. Place your hand on your heart. Feel it beat. That rhythm is the drum of life itself, calling you forward. Whisper to yourself, "I am not my past. I am not my pain. I'm not my fear. I am the creator of my destiny." And if you believe it, if you feel it, then everything begins to change. Because when you change your mind, you change your destiny. If this message resonated with you, write in the comments, "I choose my peace."